I am super excited to share my essential tips and things I've learned about making beautiful doll face-ups. Whether you're a beginner or you're looking to just pick up some new skills or try things a different way, hopefully these tips will help you create beautiful, detailed, and fun face-ups every time. Welcome to the Teeny Tinkers channel. I make ball-jointed doll and craft-related content, and face-ups are both, so let's get started. Alright, let's start with preparing the doll. There are all kinds of sealants on the markets, from dab on to brush on, sponge on, and spray on. I definitely prefer spray-ons myself. When using spray-on sealants like Mr. Super Clear or MSC, it is crucial to get the distance right. If you hold the doll too close or spray too much, the resin can develop a smooth, glossy texture, which makes it really hard to get color to transfer on, especially with pencils or watercolors. Instead, hold your can a little bit further away and spray lightly. I recommend 3 light coats as a base and let each one dry for 15 to 30 minutes. This will make sure that your sealant has a much toothier or grippier texture to grab onto all the things you want it to and make your face-ups beautiful. However, between your layers of painting, you only need 1 light spray until your face-up is finished, and then I recommend at least 2. Of course, once your doll is prepped, the first step I do is pastels. I used to use Faber-Castell and then switched to Mungio, which I do prefer over the Faber-Castell. And recently I have been getting really into pan pastels. They are so expensive, I know they are, but they are so buttery and creamy and beautiful and blendable. Like, I cannot recommend them enough. Even if you just get a basic red, blue, yellow, white, and brown to start, if you get like a nice little starter kit, I super duper recommend these. And you can mix the colors in a separate tray, all of that good stuff. But with all pastels, regardless of the brand, my biggest tip is use a light hand. It is so much easier to build up color rather than removing it if you go overboard. Remember, less is more. A more neutral face-up is going to look way better than a blotchy or overly intense one. Also, if there's any moisture on your doll, such as paint or a little bit of water, or maybe you use a wet brush or sponge to like wipe away some paint or something, wait till it is completely dry to use pastels, otherwise they will clump and attract to the wet part and it does not look good. Okay, so talking about materials. There are so many different types of materials you can use to do a face-up, but again, this is things I've learned and my tips, so I'm going to tell you my favorites. I prefer using gouache or watercolor for fine, delicate lines like eyelashes, eyebrows, all of that good stuff. Acrylic paint also works, but I tend to thin mine out or water it down quite a lot because it's really hard to get nice thin lines with a really thick acrylic. But acrylic is really great for water lines because it gets a lot of color on all at once. Of course, you can use pencils for things like lashes and brows and eyeliner. A lot of people do. But if you're like me, you might prefer tiny paintbrushes, in which case I recommend nail art brushes. They are cheaper than a lot of the miniature paint brushes, and they come in a lot of cute colors, so that's fun too. If you want to use pencils though, I do recommend Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils. Again, I used to use the Faber-Castell ones, but I had to draw the line. I'm just kidding. But they were not as good. Another pastels and really painting in general tip is different colors for different resin tones. When you're doing face-ups, even if you're doing the face-up across many different colors of resin, for example, what you're seeing in this video, these are all my own Sculpt Penelope, and she is in the peach color, the yellow color, and the dark tan. On the peach doll, I'm using pastel pinks, blues, light yellows, light browns, and really soft lilacs to create my undertones and my blushing. On the yellow, I have to swap out the yellow pastel for an orange pastel, and I switch out a cornflower-esque blue for a slightly more purple blue, which complements the yellow resin better. But most importantly is how you color your dark resin. If I were to use the same colors of pink, yellow, and blue that I used on my peach doll, it's gonna look terrible. Choose reds and burgundies and fuchsias over pinks. Choose oranges and golds over yellow. Choose navy and purple over lilac or pale blue. And your face-ups are going to look much, much nicer. Oh, here's another fun tip. If you don't have a ton of experience in painting dolls, but you have a really specific look you're going for, it may be hard to find a tutorial for a face-up that is quite what you need, in which case I would recommend checking out makeup tutorials and kind of just subbing out the makeup products they use for different art supplies you have laying around already. Makeup tutorials are especially helpful for learning things like contouring, where to place shading on your doll's cheeks, nose, forehead, blushing, and it can also really help figure out cool eyeliner or eyeshadow looks, transition shades, blush placement, like all that kind of stuff. Okay, speaking of face-ups, I wanted to share this week's doll of the week. These pictures came from Sarah Sun over on Instagram. This is the first Junie I have seen pictures of since they've gotten home. And guys, I was not ready. She is so soft and pretty. She's giving ethereal. Like, I can't with her. She's so pretty. I am just so smitten. Thank you so much for sharing these photos, Sarah. I love them so, so much. And I'm so glad you love your Junie. If you want to be featured for Doll of the Week, please tag me in any Instagram photos. The hashtags do not work. You can also email me the photos or join my Discord and drop them into the Teeny Tinkers Dolls share channel. All right, back to the video and back to the tips. Okay, this one is less of a tip and more of a, I just need to say this because I feel like every video talking about painting dolls needs to say this. Please use safety equipment. Always wear a respirator mask when using things like spray sealant, especially Mr. Super Clear, and only use it in a well-ventilated area. It is so toxic to inhale. Please be safe. That's not so much of a tip as a mandatory thing everyone should be doing. But let's hop back into actual tips. Let's talk about eye creases. Some dolls have eye creases sculpted right in, and some of them allow you to add the crease on yourself. In either sense, getting that line nice and smooth is really essential to creating a beautiful face-up. Now, making a smooth line is difficult, especially if you're like me and you have really shaky hands. So definitely recommend stabilizing your hand for that precise line. If you can put your elbow on a table or pin it up against your side while you're doing this, this can really help you be a lot more stable, physically, maybe not emotionally, while you're doing your line. Hey, how do dolls get perfect eyebrows? They go to the artist. Okay, that was stupid. I'm sorry. A tip I picked up from a face-up artist I like, you can build up pastels over lines you've already drawn, like eyebrows or lips, to soften or blend them in beautifully. If you put your line work down, you can use the pastels over those lines to soften them up and blend them in. On the other hand, a tip I came up with for myself is use elastic bands as guides to create your brow bases in pastel first. So if you take 2 elastics and wrap them around your doll head, you can line them up in a way that works as a guide, and then your eyebrows are symmetrical and nice every single time. I have run into the issue so many times when I make a line wrong or I'm not happy with the placement of an eyeliner, wing, or something like that. So in which case, you need to erase what you've done. Now, you don't have to start over or redo the whole face up or even the whole layer. If you need to erase pastels, you can use a clean magic eraser, which has virtually no residue, and you just do a super light wipe at the location where you're trying to get rid of the pastels. Also, mini tip, cut it into sharp edges and you can get like super clean lines. I know a lot of people recommend kneaded erasers, but those leave a residue. It's kind of like an oily, greasy residue, especially when you're doing pastels, because that would fall into moisture, I guess, because it will attract pastels and it looks gungy and gross, and I do not recommend. Also, if you make a really small mistake and you don't want to throw away the whole line over it, you can use a little bit of a darker version of that color in a pastel to kind of darken in the creases as well. Also, okay guys, we are so close to hitting 10,000 here. Like, guys, so close. Painfully close. So if you could just go ahead, and if you're watching this video and you've watched a couple of my videos, or if you really like this video, if you could just take a minute and subscribe, that would be amazing. Another tip is there are some things you absolutely should not use when you're painting a doll. Things that you really shouldn't put on your doll's face are Sharpies, nail polish, human makeup, which often contains oils and can break down your sealant and or your resin. Okay, mini tip, lashes. You can buy strips of doll lashes, sure, and they work fine. They honestly go on super easy. I get the attraction, but they don't have the same oomph and wow as using human lashes for your dolls. Don't use anything that has adhesive on it already. I like to use anime lashes, which are kind of like clusters. You can also buy cluster lashes with them separated out. They are a little more expensive usually, but you can get those as well. That's basically it for the tips I have for you today. If I think of more, maybe I'll make another video if it interests you guys. But for now, I hope these tips help you create really nice face-ups or gain the confidence to try your very first one. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments and let me know if there's any tips that you have because I always love to learn new things too. If you're already subscribed, thanks so much for subscribing. If you're new here, I hope you like the content and consider subscribing. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!